All right. So, no. Whew, boy. Talking is tough, isn't it? So, I'm Colin. I'm a DIV III student here at Hampshire. I'm an autistic student. My DIV III project focuses on being autistic and trying to support other autistic folks in. I'm going to pause this right here really quick to give a little extra context. Originally, my DIV III project was to make a short film. Obviously, that's not so possible in a world where coronavirus exists, but my short film originally was intended to include aspects of the autistic experience, but in the process of researching for this, I learned so much about myself and about things I had been doing my whole life but never knew any of the language to attribute to it or any way to explain it or even fully understand it myself. So the main goal of these video essays is to share that knowledge, to share what I've learned, to share what's changed my entire thinking about the way my own head works, and open that conversation so that anyone else out there who is in my same situation, who's autistic and knows that they are, or maybe even doesn't know that they are, but needs clarification on why things are like this, or what to call them, or how to explain them. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help people open up that conversation. This edit is getting long, so I'm going to cut it here. But yeah, that's the goal of this, also, on top of whatever else I said after. This part of my div specifically, the video essay portion, is specifically aimed to normalize information that will make life easier for autistic folks. Information that might help those folks specifically get on easier, information that will help the people around them understand us better and understand how to work with us better in a way that doesn't lead us to always suffering. So yeah, that's the goal of this. Today I'm going to start out with something simple. I say simple, but I'm making this complicated by filming this in the snow. And you might even see some deer back here. Real complicated. So, I'm going to start with some just terminology this time around. Terms that you might see more often, especially in these future video essays. Terms that autistic folks might prefer you use from now on. I may also cover some terms that you should not use ever again. Like ever. Don't do it. Maybe also, if I have time for it, some common misconceptions in this one. So to start off with, a couple terms you might hear a lot in this would be, let's start with neurotypical. To break it down, neuro is brain, typical is normal or average. I don't like the word average here, though, because that's maybe not what it actually is anymore. But it's what is seen as the unafflicted person, someone who doesn't deal with autism or any other affliction that disables them in any mental or social or behavioral way, I suppose. There's also neurodivergent, which, again, brain, but divergent, different. This term can cover a vast majority of things, including autism and numerous other things. It's a very descriptive scientific term. It's accurate. It's not rude as long as you don't use your tone that way. So don't. Are they still back there? Are they listening to me? I think they are. That's cool. I hope they show up on camera. Oh, they are all back there. I wish I had the camera closer over here. ADHD also falls under neurodivergent. This is also a thing that I have, and I cannot help myself from watching these deer, and I really hope they show up on camera at least a little bit. It's snowing harder now. My hands are freezing. So, yeah, neurodiverse. There's a lot of things that covers. There's a lot of people talking about neurodiverse issues these days, especially on Twitter. I found a lot of the time the most helpful support I've found so far has come from other autistic folks talking about their experiences from just Twitter, which seems real simple, like maybe you want articles or something, but a lot of the time articles are written about autism by people who want to just push us around. A lot of the time the most articles you see are these anti-vaccine articles because people pump them out because somehow that's making them money to convince people that vaccines cause autism. They don't. Nothing about that works that way. Like, autism comes mainly from genetics and mutation, and it's a normal thing entirely. It's neurodivergent can also mean like a divergent pathways. The brain, the way that the parts of our brain connect change from the way that is seen in neurotypical folks. Some people, it can vary in ways. Most of us, we can struggle through normal life, but in other ways we can think of things in ways that other people never could. We wouldn't have people like Einstein if autism wasn't possible or wasn't a thing. Which, I mean, where would we be without people like that? So, I'm going to get more into some other terms. Another frequent one we'll probably see is stimming. Stimming is something you'll see autistic folks do a lot, but it actually happens in neurotypical folks as well, and just everyone. Something as simple as tapping your foot is stimming. A lot of the times you'll see autistic folks doing things with their hands, motions, routines. I a lot of the time like to do tapping, sometimes to music. Some folks do it dancing, just randomly dancing around in just places they don't want to be in. It tends to be a type of coping mechanism. This is what you see if you're seeing someone rocking in a public place, like rocking back and forth. That's most likely what this is as well. When people are put in stressful situations, it sometimes just helps to do these kinds of things to reassure yourself that you're fine. Okay, I'm gonna try to keep going here. Ooh, boy. Okay, so another term we might see a lot, we will probably hear a lot, is masking. Masking is what neurodiverse people tend to do to attempt to appear more normal to neurotypical people. A lot of the time, we do things that seem normal to us, and then we do it around one of you people, and you make us feel like freaks for existing. It's not fun. One example of masking is when I was a kid in like kindergarten and first grade. They're all about making kids line up, straight line, single file, all the way down those super long hallways for whatever reason. And I realized, in comparison to everybody else, I couldn't walk straight. So, in order to cope or to mask it, I would hyper focus on the legs of the kids in front of me and exactly mimic their walking and their motions. And I made it look like I could walk straight because I was walking straight, but I put so much focus and attention into doing this that if anyone was to try to talk to me or say anything to me, I'd hear the noise, but the language processing wouldn't happen. I wouldn't know that anybody was even talking to me because I was focusing so much on just trying to appear normal. Over the course of time, autistic people tend to learn to just do this automatically and do it all the time. It's like just a social mask even eventually. But it's one of the most draining things about being autistic is the masks. And a lot of the time it feels like it never can come off, or there's multiple masks. There's so many that have to be going on all the time. But yeah, that's kind of how that feels a lot. It feels like every time you're around someone, that's another mask. Oftentimes autistic people, when they're around other people, it's another mask, and then they come back, they need to be like alone time to decompress from everything, from leaving the mask on to just rest. Unfortunately, doing too much of socializing, too much of mental energy draining things can lead to burnout, or specifically autistic burnout, which is another term, which is rough. It's insanely rough. It can last a long ass time. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's not. And often we're just pushed to work through it, which can suck. It sucks a hell of a lot. But the point is, one of the main points I want to make here is that the biggest support you can get is talking to other autistic people. One of the biggest things I've found in the research for doing this DIV work is the hashtag #ActuallyAutistic on Twitter, where actually autistic people, adults, talk about their experiences and explain the way they've experienced the world and dealt with these issues before, and even the way they've been treated by people. Sometimes it can be draining to read, especially seeing the awful ways people are treated, but it's also insanely helpful for us to talk to each other, because part of what some organizations, like the anti-vaccine folks, the corporations behind that, it doesn't help them for us to talk to each other, because as soon as we're talking to each other, we know how fucked up most of the shit they do is. It's a little too in-depth to get into in this first video, but in a later video I'll be talking about ABA, and a lot of the boards and just corporations that are behind trying to do like conversion therapy type things with autistic folks. None of that is okay, by the way. Like, talk to normal therapists, work through issues. Don't send someone to a fucking camp or something to cure it out of them. It's not something that has a cure. It's something you learn with and exist with forever. It doesn't... I think I'm going to wrap it up soon, but one of the things that I want to clear up, I'm forgetting the word now. It's gone. But the misconceptions, that's it, that I want to clear up is that autism doesn't get cured. It doesn't go away as autistic children become adults. The autistic children grow up to become autistic adults. They just learn to cope better with it. High functioning and low functioning are not accurate descriptors if you've ever used them. People just learn to deal with it better, and sometimes it catches up with us and we burn out, we have outbursts. It's a thing that has to happen, otherwise we suffer further. But if you take the time to learn from the community, look into the Actually Autistic Twitter articles you might see shared there, and just be kind. Be kind to people. Give people the time to figure out what they need to do and what they need to say. It can be that simple. Just take some time to do some reading and patience. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there, I think. And maybe see if I can find those deer. And this is still recording. Cool.